Good morning, 8th grade. Mr. Franklin here. It is Thursday, May 21st, 2020, and today we're going to be talking about the Freedom Rides. So this is, this is our second to last week of e-learning. Next week is our last week of school. So we want to be 100% engaged so that we don't have to do summer school, so we can participate in all the promotion activities and go on to high school. A couple of important announcements. The first thing is, if you have not filled out the information for Miss Mitchell in Miss Mitchell's classroom, it's a survey for promotion. You need to make sure you send her a picture for promotion, and there is a Google form to be filled out. Make sure you do that. Number two, second place, there is going to be tomorrow at noon a student council meeting on Zoom. I will be emailing all members of student council to invite you, but the student council meeting tomorrow is at noon. So if you're in student council, make sure you attend that. That is important because we're going to be making some decisions for promotion. That's tomorrow at noon. All right, guys. So we're going to be talking about the Freedom Rides. Let's go ahead and get right into it and talk about the Freedom Rides. So what were the Freedom Rides? First of all, the Freedom Rides were started, you need to know, they were started by this organization called CORE. CORE stands for the Congress on Racial Equality. That's a question on your Google form. So pause right now. CORE stands for Congress on Racial Equality. Congress on Racial Equality was founded in 1942 by a guy named James Farmer. There were chapters all across the country. Their headquarters was in Chicago, so they were a northern organization as opposed to a southern organization. They were dedicated to nonviolence, and one of their first major things they did was they worked to desegregate the schools in Chicago. In 1947, they did attempt a cross-country bus ride. Imagine you're in the city of Chicago and you want to ride the bus to Mississippi. Federal law made it illegal to segregate interstate travel. So if you were to travel on a Greyhound bus from Chicago to, say, Mississippi, it was illegal for those bus rides to be segregated. However, bus companies still segregated them because in the South it was expected that segregation would exist. That bus ride never took place because of societal situations. First one was attempted in 1947. So in May of 1961, the Congress on Racial Equality organized what were called the Freedom Rides. The Freedom Rides were essentially going to be integrated bus rides, testing or pushing the boundaries of the law to see if the federal government would enforce the federal law at the time in 1961. So by 1961, it was illegal to segregate or to force segregation of buses. So basically, essentially what happened was a bunch of white and African Americans, so you have Caucasians and blacks doing this together, they're integrated in this form of protest, are going to ride these buses. They're going to buy a ticket, or everybody who's participating is going to buy a ticket. They're going to test the Supreme Court, they're going to test federal laws, and they're going to travel on these buses in an integrated manner from the north to the south. And they were going to ride all the way to New Orleans. All right? And the way that they would do it was that the cultural expectation at the time was that the black riders would ride in the back by themselves and the whites would ride in the front by themselves. And they were going to flip it. The whites would ride in the back, the blacks in the front. When they would go to the Greyhound bus stops, let's say they would stop in a city along the way, they would get off the bus. Whites would go to the black waiting room as a form of protest, and blacks were going to go to the white waiting room as a form of protest. So that would be their civil disobedience along the way. All right, that was the plan. When they started in the north, so if you look up here at this map, you see they started near Washington, D.C., and their route is going to be going all the way north, and the goal would be to get to New Orleans. Now, they never made it to New Orleans. Their last stop was right here on May 24th and 25th. And they're not going to make it all the way to the Deep South because violence along the way is going to stop them. On May 14th, when they got to Birmingham, Alabama, the KKK was waiting for them. The KKK surrounding the bus, would not let the bus off, slashed the bus's tires, threw a firebomb in. Luckily, the riders were able to escape. They they reorganized, made it to Montgomery, Alabama. They were attacked by a mob of 1,000. When they got to Jackson, Mississippi, which would be their final stop, they were arrested and sent back home. Eventually, President Kennedy had to send in state troopers to surround them. So they didn't make it all the way to New Orleans, but they did bring into focus the fact that there's this federal law, and this federal law is not being supported by the federal government, by President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy at the time. So it forced President Kennedy, who wanted to sort of toe the line. He wanted to present himself as a civil rights president, but he also wanted white votes in the South, so he didn't push too hard. But it did force him to take a stand. And the Interstate Commerce Commission outlawed segregation within their rules and interstate travel in order to make sure that this didn't happen. So this was a very important form of nonviolent protest. The violence that these riders faced, and no one died, luckily they were heavily injured and beaten, did bring to the forefront the violence of segregation, Jim Crow, and furthered the civil rights movement at the time. So again, we have May of 1961, young African-American whites. About 450 people overall participated in these Freedom Ride protests. All right. The most difficult part of the protest was actually getting bus drivers to participate. Now, these bus drivers worked for the Greyhound Bus Company. Many of them just refused to take the trip. They didn't want to be involved in this. They saw the violence that was possible or could occur, and they just wanted to, make a living, make money for their families. And so it was often difficult to get a bus driver who would actually take them where they needed to go. All right, guys, so that's our presentation for today. I want you to do the reading. Stay focused. Remember, student council meeting tomorrow at noon. I love you guys. Stay safe. Mr. Franklin is in the process of selling his house and buying a new house and moving. My birthday is May 24th. It's coming up pretty soon. It's the 21st. So happy birthday to me. I'm turning 25. Okay, that's a lie. I'm turning 40. I love you guys. I can't wait for you guys to go on to high school and be successful. I love you. Stay safe.